Good morning. How the devil are we all doing this fine day? Hope you're all well. It's another day in paradise right here. The weather's taken a turn for the worse. I have no news of any new equipment, so Friday's episode of the Construction Equipment News Show is looking very shaky indeed. Oh, and just to cap it all, it looks like I would touch down in Verona next week in the middle of a 2-day thunderstorm.
Nice.
However, and it is a very big however, we confirmed yesterday, we will be working with both Komatsu and Indico while we're in Italy. I'm a huge fan of both brands. One of my mates used to work for Indico, so I have a bit of an affinity for that brand, but also to have our work recognised by the second biggest construction equipment brand in the entire world. Bit of a boost for the ego, I have to say. Of course, we do now need to deliver some great content in the middle of a thunderstorm, but hey, no pressure. Now, without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro. I don't post a question today anymore, do I? I'm going to get the show on the road, but don't forget, if you'd like to leave anything in the chat, you can leave anything in the chat, but I'm also looking for your pet peeves. I'll get to it later during our new gripe of the day section. I've got one, but if yours is better, I'll do yours instead. Going to say a very quick good morning to a couple of people who've just popped up in the chat. Our friend CJ Morris is here. Morning to you, sir. I don't have a button for you, so I couldn't actually respond when you arrived, and I need to add another button for Mark Whiting, who is a regular here. He just hasn't got a button yet. I will get to that at some point in the next couple of days. Now, it is Wednesday, the 26th of April. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host. No great surprise, Mark Anthony. In today's show, Hitachi seals the technology deal with Carmac. Komatsu gets set to take SaMoTer by storm. There's Workwear, and then there's this. Plus, we are featuring, he's in the house actually, we are featuring a Korean machine on display in Finland, filmed by an Englishman. Truly international bit that is going to be. We're going to get to all that in just a second, but first, let us trawl back through the mists of time, not the hists of time, the mists of time, to see what was happening on this day in history. Yes, and on this day in 1564, I remember it well, William Shakespeare was baptised in Stratford-upon-Avon. In 1928, Madame Tussauds Waxworks reopened after a fire. I would imagine that was a messy one. In 1954, the movie The Seven Samurai was released in Japan. For those of you that don't know, that was the forerunner for The Magnificent Seven. Great movie. In 1982, Argentinian soldiers surrendered to the British in the Falklands. In 1984, Ronald Reagan visited China, way ahead of his time there. In 1998, Conan O'Brien replaced David Letterman on The Late Night Show. Iron Man 2 premiered in 2010 on this day in history. And in 2022, the US officially exited its pandemic phase. Will that really be a year ago? Wow. Now more of this. A Hitachi excavator. Good starting point, right? Throw in a bit of Hitachi connected technology to spice things up a bit. Stir in an Encon tilt rotator and garnish with a Leico Geosystems 3D machine control, and you have a tasty dish to set before a king.
As a supplier to the house building market, we've been an early adopter to the use of technology to make us more efficient, more productive, and to do things safer. Hitachi Connected Technology made it easy for us to implement across the business because their knowledge of the product and the variety of the products that they could give us underneath that heading helped us adopt it across the company. Since January last year, we trialled the Leica machine control we found massive productivity benefits and also the efficiencies that we've had with the plant and equipment. And in relation to the safety aspect, it has reduced the number of people that's needed around a machine. Since we've done that, we've now implemented it across our fleet, and going forward our further investment is any new machine that comes in will be fitted with a Leica GPS and machine control.
I've been using the Leica system on the machine for the last 6 months. I found it very easy to use. It makes operating easier. All the levels and angles are all available on the screen, so you don't need a second person with a laser to do that for you. It speeds the operating up 10 times.
Earlier this year we've decided to trial the Incon tilt rotators on our machines. The benefits of those, we find that they can be clipped on and clipped off to use it as and when we require for specific projects. The big benefit on the smaller machines is the flexibility it gives and the number of jobs that it can now do.
What I like the most about the Incon tilt rotator is the ability to dig parallel to the machine without having to move it. I can dig diagonally, I can dig backwards, I can dig forwards, and I can change the bucket around so I can dig away from me as well.
It has been a one-stop process for us from day one to when the machine arrives to site. Once we speak to the sales representative and we decide on what technology is going on the machine, it arrives to site and it's ready to go almost immediately. And we've always got that backup and support that we need. The biggest benefit we have Hitachi is we pick up the phone and we have somebody to speak to who has the knowledge and experience that can assist us with any problems that we might have.
And that, my friends, is how you set up an excavator. That's exactly how they're going to look in the future. Yes, let me explain that. Let's have a look. There we are. Plantworks Construction Equipment Exhibition is in the house, and as is one of their exhibitors, Gaz Evans. Good morning to both of you. Let's have a look. Plantworks have actually just said, we have Leica, Hitachi, Incon, all exhibiting at the show. So if you're into technology, you know where to be. And Steve Williamson has also said, another guy that sees the benefits of GPS and tilt rotator. Steve, that makes at least 3 of us. I'm going to press a button while I get rid of the duck. Go for this one. Yeah, can you imagine somebody tuning in for the first time and just having seen me talking into the back end of a duck? That is Digger the duck, by the way, as our friends at Plantworks have just said. It is time for a sharing of passions. Regular viewers will know how much I love Demolition. You'll also know how much my mate Nick Drew loves all things Finnish. Well, when Nick was in Finland a week or 2 ago, he happened upon a very smart-looking new demolition machine. It turns out this is the first Devilon straight boom DX380 LC-7. Try and say in that after a few pints. This is the first of its kind in the whole of Finland. And Nick very kindly, not only did he capture it on film, he shared the film with us as well. And this is what it looks like. Yeah, it really was a great find, Nick, and thanks for allowing us to share it here on the show. If you'd like to see more content like that, I strongly urge you to go over to YouTube, search for the Digger Man blog, and be sure to hit the subscribe button. Nick already has a very, very creditable 5,500 subscribers on YouTube. I'm sure he would welcome a few more. We've had a suggestion for our gripe of the day. I have to say, having watched it on YouTube and on the BBC News a night or two ago, I'm kind of in the same boat as Mick Norton here. Gripe of the day: police officers who view eco-protesters' rights above those of members of the public trying to get on with their life. Anybody has anything more to offer on that? I'd love to hear from you. While you're thinking about it, let me roll this. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to say good morning to this gentleman who is watching over on LinkedIn. I am not going to try to do all of his name. I'm just going to refer to him as Mohammed because he has one hell of a long name. But thank you very much indeed for being here. And he says, perfect tool. My guess is he was talking about the Demolition machine. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Mohammed. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. I'm guessing you're here in the UK, but let me know. Let's have a look. A 360 with GPS tilt rotator that clips off easily for heavy digging, and a blade would cover nearly every base. The only other thing would be an extending dipper, he says. I don't know if Jim is making a statement or drawing up his Christmas shopping list. Quite possibly both. Glenn Johnston has just joined us as well. Good morning, Glenn, and thank you for being here. Now, workwear. We all use it. In fact, we all rely upon it. My wardrobe is largely filled with it, and yet we hardly ever feature it here on the show. Well, it's time to put that right. Having said that, the company in question don't so much sell workwear as they sell an entire lifestyle. Yeah, I actually looked around their stand at ConExpo. Some of the hats and boots on display were absolutely awesome. Unfortunately, by the time I got there, I'd run out of suitcase space. Maybe next time. Now, I think we've had some clarification from our friend Mohammed. He has said he is in KSA. Is that Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or am I just making that up? Feels like it should be, but if anybody knows any more, please let me know. Let me roll a bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Just going to answer a question from our friend Dan Cullen. Morning, Dan. Do they do international postage? I'm assuming you're talking about Carhartt. Carhartt, you can actually buy it in the UK, I'm fairly sure. Can't remember who the dealers are for it, but I'm fairly sure it's available, or at least some of the product range is here already. So go take a look on Google. And if you have any problems, get back to me and I'll have a look on Google for you. Now, in just 5 days' time, I will be switching from fish and chips to pizza and pasta. I'll be forsaking Old Blighty and I'll be embracing La Dolce Vita. Or, to put it another way, I'm going to Italy. Myself and Fred are off to the SaMoTer exhibition in Verona on Monday, just in time for the thunderstorms to arrive. Now, there's a long list of companies that I am very, very keen to catch up with. But there is one that is at the very, very top of the list. And it's this one. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to be working with the fine folks at Komatsu. Obviously, I have enormous admiration for the company, but this means we've now completed a bit of a personal milestone. You might recall last year we worked with Caterpillar on the launch of their Demolition film series. We worked with XCMG at both Bauma and ConExpo, and now we can add Komatsu to the list. That means we will have worked with each of the 3 biggest equipment manufacturers in the entire world. Not bad for a little father and son operation, I think you'll agree. Now, before I get gripey, I'm going to say good morning to, I'm going to guess that is pronounced Fetty. I don't know, but good morning to you. My apologies. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, today's gripe really could not be any simpler. It can be summed up in one very simple phrase. You had one job. As a Londoner, I was raised on pie and mash, and it remains my go-to comfort food to this very day. Should I ever find myself on death row, and it's surely only a matter of time, I will insist that my final meal is precisely that, pie and mash with liquor. And here's a photo for non-Londoners. Don't judge, trust me, it's delicious. That is what pie and mash looks like. When you visit a pie and mash shop, you go to the counter, you tell the person behind the counter what you want. They dish it up while you wait, and then you take your plate to one of the benches, they always have benches, before tucking in, but only after you've added chili vinegar. Although they've had to bow to modern trends and offer vegetarian pies, pie and mash shops basically sell 3 or 4 items. They sell pies, they sell mash, they sell liquor. Some offer jellied eels or hot eels, neither of which are for the faint-hearted. So their stock comprises a number of items that can be counted on the fingers of one hand. And yet, it's not unusual to be told, sorry, we're waiting for pies. And it's not peculiar to pie and mash shops either. How many times have you been into your local McDonald's and been told, we're waiting for fries? Or, sorry, the milkshake machine is broken down. Surely it's not too much to ask for a place that sells burgers, fries, and milkshakes to have all 3 pretty much ready to go. I could understand it if I drove into Burger King and ordered the lobster thermidor. But I'm just ordering one of the 2, 3, or 4 items that are on your menu. Is it really too much to ask to have everything ready that everybody is going to order? That's my gripe of the day. Oh, excuse me. I do need to get used to touching the mute button up here. And I'm going to remind you of Mick Dalton's gripe of the day. Maybe we can discuss that one after the show. Gripe of the day: police officers who view eco-protesters' rights above those of members of the public trying to get on with their life. And I have to say, I believe that the media is kind of complicit in all of that. I think it was The Independent. I get some of the news on my iPhone, and it was police prevent truck driver or lorry driver assaulting eco-protester. And there was no assault taking place. It was just get out the bloody way. I don't believe that constitutes assault. Let's have a chat about that after the show. In fact, that pretty much wraps up the main part of the show. So I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle like you know. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. If you have the time and the inclination, I'll see you on the other side of this for what is now known as the Craic, and we have some new music to play as well. So first here is a word from our sponsor. Right, let's get that. There you go. Some nice, gentle music in the background. I'll add that as well. Change the setup, and then I will go about my merry way saying good morning to all of those that have joined us. I'm going to say, right, okay. Gripe of the day. I thought that was question of the day, so I was gripe of the day. Just been told my old mount off the previous site is squealing its tits off because nobody gives a shit looking after the machines. The one I'm on now was as dry as a nun's drawers, radio-friendly version, when I got to it the other week. I'm sure that is something that a lot of people will share. My daily gripe is guys who work canteen of foreign nationalities shouting over each other. It's so annoying. It's time to relax and not listening to those shouting over each other. I don't think that's something that is purely those that are not English speakers. Works canteens do tend to be a little bit loud. Now, back to the beginning of the chat. There is our friend, the superstar that is Steve Williamson. Morning, Steve. How long before you take delivery of your stickers, my friend? Put me down for one, would you? I don't know if I can find space on there. I will certainly run it up there, but please keep us posted. There he is, the superstar, Mr. Gary Muirhead, provider of the sign that you can't currently see, but you can now. That one there, that is courtesy of our friend Mr. Gary Muirhead, and doesn't it look good? Just to let you know, I did mention this to Gary yesterday. I actually had a conference call with the fine folks at Komatsu yesterday, and one of the things that they picked up on was my backdrop, including that sign. Even Komatsu are impressed with the setup we have here, which is nice to know, bearing in mind it's cobbled together out of bits and pieces and stuff. That, if you can look above my head there, that crown, my son bought me that. I think it cost him about £1 on Amazon, and if you can see, just let me do it this way. Just there is a sign that was sent to us by one of our youngest viewers, and yeah, all of this stuff over here, I don't know my left and my right, all of that stuff is just stuff that I picked up along the way, and Komatsu liked it, which is always nice to know. There we are. There is Nick Drew, provider of all things Finnish, as it turns out. So we had a Korean machine in Finland filmed by an Englishman. Awesome. Looked an impressive machine, and I have to say I did like the livery as well. Was that Finnish blue, or is that just a random blue that Toivonen and Demolition had picked out? Be interested to know. There is Jim Turner. Good morning, Jim. Thank you very much indeed for being here. We'll be back to your old machine squealing its tips off in just a second. Al Grierson is in the house. Good morning, Al, over in Luxembourg. I'm just checking. No, it is Wednesday today, and therefore it is not World Al Grierson Day. That's tomorrow, as we all know. CJ Morris is here as well. Good morning to you, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for joining us over from the land that is LinkedIn. Mick Norton is here as well. Mark Whiting is here as well. Good morning to you, gentlemen. The team at PlantWorks are becoming regular viewers by the looks of things, which is always nice to see. Can I get this thing to balance? It took me ages last time. There you go. That is Digger the Duck. I am talking to the back end of a duck again. I can't be doing that. People will clip that and put it on YouTube like I've lost my marbles. Gaz Evans. I've said this before. I shall say it again. Obviously, I don't. Perhaps the good folks at PlantWorks will remind us just how many exhibitors they will have behind the doors of the East of England Showground. But Gaz Evans is most certainly among them. And I would strongly suggest, I don't know Gaz Evans' price list, but I would strongly suggest that you take a large, crisp £50 note with you, pop by the Gaz Evans stand and buy yourself an attachment model, because his are the finest in the land. Go take a look. I don't know how many, but not yet. Anyway, I don't know how many exhibitors PlantWorks has, but I can tell you that Leica, Hitachi, and Encon, and Gaz Evans will all be at the show. Worth going for any of those three, to be perfectly honest. It feels, Steve, like you are winning the war. It feels like you're slowly convincing the world of the benefits of GPS and tilt rotator, one operator at a time. And I do wonder about that. This is something we discuss on a fairly regular basis here on the show, about the fact that we still have some swathes of the industry that believe that tilt rotators and GPS are namby-pamby and lazy and less manly, and all we've all heard the criticisms and everything else. I wonder if the answer is basically to get them to have a go once. If you went from, let's say, a manual car to an automatic, and that automatic had sat-nav, Bluetooth, ABS, power steering, and all of the things, would you really want to give that back afterwards? That's my views on the thing anyway. There is Digger the Duck. Stephen Guthrie's here as well. Morning, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Yes, gripe of the day. Now, eco-protesters. I agree with their ultimate ambition, in other words, to hopefully save the environment. I understand that. But why is it that the people that are most inconvenienced by this are people just going about their daily business? And how do the police balance the rights of those involved? If somebody, and I've got another gripe, and I don't know whether this is common to everywhere, but it's certainly common here. I'll come back in just a second. But if I were to go up the road here and sit in the road, sooner or later, and I would genuinely expect it, sooner or later somebody is either going to run me over, possibly, or they're going to get out of the car, they're going to drag me to my feet, and they're going to punch me on the nose. I kind of see that coming. Given that, would it not be better for all if the police were to move on the eco-protesters and thereby actually eliminate the likelihood of an assault? The other thing, I should probably save this one for another day, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. I live a mile away from Epsom Town Centre. Epsom Town Centre has a number of eateries. We have a Starbucks, we have a Cafe Nero, we have a McDonald's, we have, let me think, we have a Subway, and a bunch of others, okay? Because of the rise of services like Uber Eats and Just Eat and all that kind of thing, the pavements of Epsom High Street are now impassable because there are dozens, and I do literally mean dozens, of mopeds and motor scooters pulled up onto the curb or onto the pavement waiting to jet off with somebody's burger delivery. If I were to drive my car, and I realise a car is a bigger thing, but if I were to drive my car down Epsom High Street and decide I'm going to bump my car up on the curb and just park and block the way of everybody else, A, I would get a ticket, and B, if I did it for long enough, you'd think somebody would come along, the police would come along and tow my car away. Apparently, if you are delivering burgers and sandwiches and cups of coffee to the housebound and the perennially lazy, that's perfectly acceptable. When did we all agree to that? And there is, I don't go in it very often, but there is a McDonald's not the other direction over towards Cheam, which is just up the road. If you go in there, the car park once again is full of people sat on motor scooters waiting to take their orders. And if you go in there, you have to go to a machine, punch in your order, because the counter is lined with people with crash helmets on. Is that right? Please let me have your thoughts. There's our friend Mohammed, who is, I think he's in Saudi Arabia, but I don't care. I don't care where he is. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. There is Dan Callan. Never misses the opportunity to say happy hump day. Thank you. June Turner says a GPS, no, let me try that again. A 360 with GPS tilt rotator that clips off easily for heavy digging, and a blade would cover nearly every base. The only other thing would be an extending dipper. Yeah, and again, I mean, I personally wonder if the people to take a lead from this are the owner operators, and there are still a few out there. an owner-operator will want to basically set his machine for pretty much every eventuality. You might recall we featured the Canadian operator, Alan Slade, on the show about a week ago. If not, go back and have a look. And, you know, he is largely a one-man band, so he has equipped his machine, quick coupler, tilt rotator, GPS, all the bells and whistles, so that almost regardless of what job comes through his door, he's ready for it. Is that not the way ahead? Please let me have your thoughts. Glenn Johnston is here from Northern Ireland. Good morning to you, Glenn. I'm fairly sure we've had people here from Northern Ireland before, but thank you for being here nonetheless. Not been to Northern Ireland for years. About time I went back, I think. Love Ireland, love Northern Ireland as well. One of my ambitions, one of my long-held ambitions, there is a Van Morrison song called Coney Island, and it's a spoken thing, it's not even sung, and he just talks about a trip along the coast, stopping for, I wish I could remember the words, but stopping for food along the way. Always quite fancied doing that. Maybe one day. There is Dan Cullen saying he's a bit late for the show. No need to apologise. We take all comers and we don't care when they arrive either. I do wonder if something like a Leica would be adapted for deconstruction of a building. Good point. I actually asked that question of the team of TopCon while I was in ConExpo back in March. Can it really be a month ago? Feels like it. And we got into the discussion about how it would work. My personal feeling is it will come, but I think a lot of it will depend upon data input. Those of you that don't know, unfortunately, demolition contractors are often starved of the relevant information because we're taking down buildings that were built 30, 40, 50 or more years ago. The information on how it was built, how it was held together, the order of construction, and everything else is sometimes just not available. I think when we hit the point where we are taking down buildings where we have that information, to punch that information into a digital twin model so that we can actually set up a system like a Leica or a Topcon or a Trimble or everything else to say, okay, well, this is how the thing went up, this is therefore how it needs to come down, and highlighting where joints are, where services are, and all the things that they need for that sort of thing. I think that's where it will come, and that surely that's got to be only a matter of years away. Certainly here in the south of England, it's not unusual for us now to be taking down buildings of 20 and 30 years old. We've had BIM and the like for at least a decade, so we must surely be on the verge of encountering buildings for which we have that detailed information. Just needs the adoption, and it's been slow coming in construction, but I do think that there is another key indicator here. Having spoken to Leica, having spoken to Topcon and Unicontrol as well, all three are now targeting more compact machines. Not that that's necessarily applicable in demolition, but they are all, I think they've all got to the point where they understand civil engineering and big rail and road projects and that kind of thing. They are now applying that technology to other and sometimes smaller operations, and I think demolition will slot into that very, very nicely indeed. Let's have a look. And going back to Jim Turner's point about setting up the ideal machine, there you are. Put an oil quick in as well. Yeah, absolutely right. Totally agree. We will be working with oil quick over in SaMoTer as well, which is very pleased about. Remember when I started in construction, it was just a plain high-vis vest and jeans. Now there's so many brands that do high-vis gear. I have more branded high-vis clothing than I do my leisure clothing when not at work. Yeah, to the point where I actually I've got, you can't see it, but I've got my go-to high-vis hanging on the back of my office door, but I've got another big box of it, in a sealed box of it in my garden shed. I've got another bunch in the car, and I've got another bunch in a lockup as well. So yes, it can take over your life. I don't know if anybody's ever watched any of the videos over on the Content with Media channel over on YouTube that Peter Haddock runs. He's got that pretty well sussed. When he first went freelance, must be I want to say 3 years ago, it could be 4 years ago. Doesn't matter. He decided to go and invest in a whole bunch of, and he's a navy blue, so he's got navy blue polo shirts, with his content with media branding, navy blue high-vis trousers as well, and he wears them everywhere. You often see him at exhibitions, even indoor exhibitions, wearing exactly the same thing. I think it cuts down on the amount of stuff that you need in your wardrobe, but it also makes sure that you're fully branded as well. Our friend Fetty, I wish I could understand what you were saying, because I know you left 3 comments. I'm not. I've got to confess my ignorance here. I don't even know what language that is. Is that Arabic? I don't. I wish I could speak to you. I really do. My apologies. Question of the day. So this is Jim Turner being sad about the treatment of both his old machine and the one that he's on now before he arrived. Do you know, I don't get it. I don't get it. Obviously, I'm not an operator, but I used to, when I was working for a big publishing company, we used to, before I was given my own company car, we used to use what we referred to as pool cars. So there was a stock of cars that our transport department had, and if you needed to go on your travels, they would dig out a pool car for you to use. And they'd been used by other journalists, and they were terrible. No fault of the transport department, but they were usually filled with fag ash and empty coffee cups and year-old newspapers. Why would, for a start, why would you choose to leave it in that state? And why would you want to drive around in something that was like a mobile skip? I don't understand it. There you are. There's Dan Cullen's gripe about people shouting over each other. Again, not specific, I don't think, not specific to foreign nationals, and certainly not specific to works canteens. You know, I do believe on this one, there is a matter of context. If I'm in a works canteen and everybody is shouting over each other, it's annoying. It's, oh, Jesus, guys, can you take it down a bit? Put me in an Italian restaurant, you expect it to be loud. You expect people to be shouting and waving their arms about. Matter of context. Ken Hatcher, I wasn't expecting to see Ken today because he, sorry I'm not here today, I'm down at the show in Cardiff. Have a good day all. Sorry I'm not here. Does that not mean that you are here? Going back to my comment about plant works, how many exhibitors? How many exhibitors do you think? 100? 150? 200? 250? Nope. 300-ish. 300-ish. Incidentally, it's apropos of nothing, I heard a thing on the radio or on the TV last night. So, somebody was described as a permanent undersecretary from 2015 to 2020. That's not permanent. That's 5 years. Maybe it's just me. Gaz, you are going to be busy. I hope he is. Seriously, I hope Gaz goes back with no stock, with his pockets filled with £50 notes and a big smile on his face. That'd make my day. Gaz, good luck. Why don't trainers actually show operators on how to grease the machines a few times? I've seen guys couldn't even put a cartridge into the gun and didn't know how to. Unbelievable. Is that not kind of operator 101? Goes back, we had this discussion, I don't even know what it was, but we had this discussion, I think it may have been on one of our construction content creators club, not shows, but discussions. We were talking to Al Grierson. I was never taught how to, back in the day, write a check or how to reconcile my checkbook or anything like that. I think Al said that money is a part of the curriculum now. I can't actually remember. But you would have thought when you're training somebody, particularly somebody, a complete rookie, here, before you even get in the machine, here are the things that you need to do. Right, now you've mastered that, we'll put you in the machine. The model show in Fort William Nevis Centre for anyone in Scotland to collect models this Saturday. Wide selection of construction models. For anyone that's ever been to any of the major exhibitions, and I'm thinking Bauma, Intermat, Conexpo, and others, the biggest queues normally are at the model shops. People absolutely love them. And there are a couple of exhibitors over at the Bauma show that have, literally, in the high hundreds, if not thousands of models on display, all for sale, and some of them fetch literally thousands of pounds. Incredible. I was told by a manufacturer once, back in the old SED days, and I'm struggling, I'm bearing in mind this is 30 plus years ago, I'm fairly sure it was Case, I could be wrong, I'm fairly sure it was Case, but they made enough money selling models and merch on their stand to actually pay for the entire stand. Because one of the reasons that this show works, and one of the reasons that people follow Nick Drew on the Diggerman blog, the reason that people follow Steve Williamson on TikTok and stuff, is this is one of those industry areas where you can't be half pregnant. I don't think anybody drives an excavator on a 9-to-5 basis, gets off the machine and never thinks about construction again until he gets there the following morning. This is one of those things, it's not just a job, it becomes part of your life. Which is why you have people, they're not in the market to buy a machine. They are employed, but they will make the trek to a Plantworks or a Bauma or a Hillhead or a Conexpo or any of these other shows just to look at the other kit that's available. So, if anybody is up at Fort William, and I'm envious if you are, because it's a beautiful part of the world, go and take a look at that. There is a models collection on display this Saturday. You haven't got long to get up there, but if anybody goes, please take some photographs, send them down. I'd love to see. Just on that basis, we mentioned this the other day, and I mentioned this specifically to Ken, who is down at this Welsh Construction Show. If you are out and about and you see something unusual or weird or wonderful, let us know. Fire us a photograph. I prefer photographs that shape, not that shape, but that shape, because they look better on the screen. Let us know. Let us know what you're up to. You're all part of the gang here. Dan Cullen says, yes, these mopeds and electric bikes are annoying and feel they can park anywhere. It's unbelievable. Cheeses me off, these mopeds. Cheeses you off. It seems appropriate that they are, in some occasions, delivering cheese. Instead of extending dipper gym, would be a three-piece boom. A three-piece boom as opposed to a three-piece suite. Does anybody ever actually have a three-piece suite these days? Right, okay. If you walk into a store with a bicycle, bike helmet, you'd be stopped right away. At these, walk in and say nothing said. Does seem to be a bit of a standard, doesn't it? Saba Al-Kaya Yaham from KSA. Is Mick Norton now speaking Arabic? There is no end to that man's talents. There really isn't. Lyco and Demo won't work as the buildings fall differently. No two buildings will come down the same way. You're right. You are right. But one of the things that I am most interested in, there is a thing, I'm fairly sure it's called Microsoft Lens, which is an augmented reality system. So imagine in a demolition context, you sit down at the start of the day, you have your toolbox talk, and then you have your pre-work briefing, and it says, we need you to take down that bit there and that bit there, and then we'll munch away at that bit there, and then we'll do that bit there. The operators then jump into their machines and they go and do that, and they do it from memory. Microsoft Lens, which I think is what it's called, is an augmented reality system whereby you wear, it's either a heads-up display on your excavator cab, or you're wearing a pair of AI glasses that effectively give you give you X-ray vision. So when you look at a wall, you will see the wall, or you'll see the joists, or you'll see the slab, or whatever it might be, but you will also be able to see through the augmented reality where the joints are, where there might be pipes running through there, or utilities or services or whatever it might be. That applied to demolition, rather than getting that weird surprise that you get where something is cut and it falls in a way which you didn't expect. If you know exactly how that thing is bolted together or pieced together, I think that will be a great advantage. And it's coming. Trust me, it is coming. There we are. It was 4 years. Peter launched his new career at Plantworks 2019. And you know what? I knew that because I do remember him being at the plant works in the simulator area, filming away to his heart's content, and, as you say, launching his new career. So yes, that in calendar terms, we've already passed his 4th anniversary, I would guess. Have we? Almost, maybe. Obviously, Plantworks has changed dates. It's now in the summer. God, if you're listening to me, Plantworks is now in the summer. Sunshine? Cool. He doesn't listen to me. Jim Turner, bang on the money with the appalling state of some of the modern day operators, leave very expensive items of plant. Operators proven to have ignored pre-start checks should be sacked, no question. And that, I know I'm a bit of a person for tech. I'm a bit of a tech fan and a geek and everything else. That surely is another area where tech can come in. If your machine, or you have an app on your phone, whatever it might be, that says, okay, that we already know that telematics will allow you to monitor when the machine was started, how much it idled, how much fuel it used, what the rev counts were, and all of that kind of thing. Extend it to include pre-start checks and the like, and refueling and all of that kind of thing, all automated. So if an operator hasn't done that thing, somebody, either the site supervisor or somebody back at the head office, will get a notification saying that machine has started and nobody has ticked that box electronically to say that the pre-start was done. You either need to have a quiet word, do some more training, or ultimately, if they do it on a repeated basis, as Mick Norton says, get them out and get somebody in that will look after that machine. Bearing in mind, I don't like the idea of operators being sacked, male or female. I don't like the idea of that. But if a company has invested 100,000, 200,000, £1 million on a piece of equipment, and somebody just turns up, treats it like rubbish, and doesn't even bother to check oil levels and what have you, then they kind of need to be down the road, I would suggest. I can't say I'm with Jim Turner. I hate it how the operators nowadays don't give a monkeys. They know they can jump onto another job tomorrow. So no 2 F's given for the man's tools and equipment costs, the same as your house mortgage. I've said to guys before, would you like guys someone to go to your house, leave rubbish on the floor and damage it, costing thousands to repair it, or get into your car and hit everything around? I don't understand the mentality of some operators. Is that something that changes with the flow of the economy? We are at a point at the moment, we all know that there is I remember the mute button, sorry. We all know that there is a skill shortage at the moment, and as Dan has rightly said, even if you are pretty damn awful at your job, even if you don't take care of machines, chances are you could find another job should you find yourself sacked. What about when the recession hits? What about when work is a little more scarce and maybe there are more operators than there are jobs? Does that mean that the balance then shifts back towards people that do look after their machines? Does that appear on their CV? Does it? There was a time, not too long ago, certainly in the demolition sphere, if somebody applied for a job, it was fairly regular for the would-be employer to phone the guy's previous employer and say, what was he like? And some would say he was good, some would say he was bad, some would say he was indifferent. But what about that? Did he look after the machine he was on? No. Okay, we'll look a bit harder. Should that not carry forward? We expect people to carry bits of plastic that talk about the touchscreen test that they did a week ago last year. Why not that? Why not carry that forward? Talking about grease. Were we talking about grease? Are we talking about the film? I don't believe so. I met a forklift driver a few years ago that never greased his machine, was squeaking like mad. I said, you not grease that? His reply was, it didn't come with a grease gun, so screw it. Family friendly show. That's the difference between me and him. I'd go and buy one out of my own money just to grease it. And there, I think, is the difference. I was in a car. I was at Baumer. I was in a car with an online influencer, I remember rightly, he may have been Dutch. Doesn't matter. That's not important to the story. But he was employed, and he would do photographs and video and stuff like that in his own spare time that he was putting on Instagram and TikTok and everything else. He built up quite a big following and was very good at what he did. And because he was so proud of his machine, and the company that he worked for was very much a one-man, one-machine operation, he'd been out and he'd bought loads and loads of very special rags to clean the outside of the windscreen, and another one to clean the inside. He had all manner of cleaning products. He had one for the seat, he had one for the floor, he had one for the windows, and one for the in-cab screen that he was working from. He had brushes, and he used them that methodically, and they'd become a key part of his shtick on Instagram and TikTok and what have you, that the company that he bought all the stuff from eventually contacted him and said, we'll send you some. We'll send you some. Please keep using our product. But he had already bought it. He'd already been out and bought it because he was so proud of the machine that he was in. Is that really that hard? Dan Cullen, like Jim Turner, bang on the money, referenced current array of ticketed operators who cannot or will not grease or service. In my formative years on a Cat D8H and Scraper, my hard-nosed Jack mentor would charge me a beer for every grease point missed. Old school, sometimes, is the best school, I would say. Life skills aren't part of it, but clearly not all parents can teach their kids these things. Yeah, and it's interesting what Mick has just said. This is an area of discussion we touch on quite regularly, is this idea of mentorship. I wouldn't say we've lost it. I think it's been greatly reduced. We are now an industry that relies upon bits of plastic. Go into this classroom, sit a test, and come out, and you are now an operator. That's not how it used to work. You used to be taken under the wing of a seasoned operator, sometimes a really hard bastard, somebody that would really make you work for a living. But it's like the world of boxing, I think. If you put the right mentor, yes, they will make you work exceptionally hard, but what you are at the end of it, you're a better boxer, and you're probably a better human being as well. You're a better man or woman, as the case may be. And I think our insistence on all things being bits of plastic, I think we've lost that to a degree, and I think that's to our detriment. Hence why I said to my company and taking keys home, I'm taking keys home, and I don't want anyone going into it when I'm on holiday. Boss said he needs a machine moving, to which I said, if it gets damaged, who gets the blame? That'll be me. Regular operator gets the blame, as one says, with the other in it. You get the idea. If you're the regular operator, you get the blame. And just to clarify, yes, Mick Norton was saying good morning, Mohammed, in colloquial Arabic. I tip my hat to you, sir. I was actually thinking last night of all the Italian that I know. I can order a coffee, and I can say thank you when it arrives. Trimble has an AR camera option that shows that. Not sure what that's alluded to. My apologies. Where will Plant Works be next year, as the showground in Peterborough is going to be developed on next year? The first answer to that is that Plant Works is every other year, so it won't be next year. But if Plant Works are still watching, are there any plans to move? There already is. We're looking at venues for 2025, Dan. Future Works is next year, again looking at venues. Future Works is coming back, I'm pleased to hear. I had a good day there, apart from the fact that it's freezing bloody cold and snowing. Yes, looking forward to that. It's all things tech. If you're into that sort of thing, and I know a lot of you are, please make sure you get down there. This machine setup I'm in here is near the 200k mark. The 200k mark. All operators should be looking after their kit. You wouldn't damage or respect the machine if it was your own. No, you wouldn't. And again, we do have the facility here. In other work environments, you're called in for. I'm trying to I'm trying to remember evaluations. Yeah, my son, who works at a David Lloyd Centre, does evaluations for his staff, and he calls them in once a quarter or once every 6 months or something like that. Sits them down. This is what you're doing well. This is what you're doing not so well. This is the additional training we're going to offer, and that's going to make you a better employee as a result. Are we doing that in construction? Are people pulled to one side every once in a while and told, well, this is what you're doing right. You're a very productive operator, but your machine looks like a pile of crap. Sort it out. Are we doing that? I'd love to get the feedback. I agree. Give 3 warnings, and if not, check over your machine by next week. At the gate, yeah, quite right. That's looking at the venues for future works and plant works. I drive a machine because it's a passion. Some others drive machines because you're inside and warm and sitting down. That's the difference. Inside and warm and sitting down. Why do you think I do this? Thing is, now no one can give a bad reference to operatives. It's against the law. But guys can ridicule companies. How does that work? Goes back to our legal double standards, does it not? The one that Mick Norton mentioned earlier. If you are a protester sitting in the road, you're within your rights. If you're a lorry driver trying to get them out of the way so you can go about your day's business, you're in the wrong. Yeah. Don't spend 200 plus quid on an electric grease gun, though. It's the company's job to provide you with the necessary tools to do the job. Do point out that a grease gun is missing, and either leave them, either have them refund you if they value their bushings, or get one for you in the next few days. The problem with that, I agree 100% now. The problem with that, we do have, and maybe this is a thing that is peculiar to the UK, and maybe this hasn't been exported to Luxembourg. There is, to a degree, within the UK demolition and construction industry, what I've referred to as in the past as a climate of fear, whereby operators and operatives can be let go or sacked, depending how you look at it, for speaking up. I know of people that have been shown the exit because they were pointing out on a fairly regular basis some safety shortcomings, and they were then marked as a troublemaker and a rabble rouser and a pain in the rear end, and they were shown the door. And I realise what you've just said there is to the benefit of the company, but as I say, in that climate, do you want to be the guy that's bothering your supervisor saying, I need a grease gun and you need to pay for it? We have the same thing with PPE. PPE in the UK now, regardless of whether you're employed or self-employed through an agency or whatever, it is now the contractor's duty to provide you with PPE. But I know of people that are still buying their own PPE because there are companies that run schemes whereby if you lose your PPE or it gets damaged in some way, you have to replace it out of your own pocket. So they basically replace it out of their own pocket, and they're now despite the fact that the law says otherwise, they're now wearing their own PPE. If plant hirers went public on their costs to repair hired items damaged, misused and neglected, it would cause major rumbles. It would. AR camera that will show the building. Yes, okay, augmented reality. We're on the same page now. Show the building, and we'll have an overlay on what you need to do. Yeah, it is. It's there. I've seen it. It's a thing that does exist. Dan Cullen said I'd gone quiet. It's because I've got. I just said there's a mute button on top. When I cough, I can hit that. I'm passionate about working and operating, and I'm not overbothered about high-end wage, as I enjoy my job and love being out and about. And there is a divide, isn't it? There are some for whom it's a passion, there are others for whom it's a pain in the rear end, and it's basically the thing that they do between weekends. If you're a self-employed joiner, you wouldn't turn up to a job without a hammer. If you're a self-employed machine op, then you should have your own grease gun. It's part of your toolbox. Again, I think that's the difference between a Steve-style operator and other operators. If a company is treating you as disposable, then your 200k equipment is also disposable. It's a very good point. Again, lovely to remind companies of that, but climate fear. As long as get a reasonable wage and looked after, I'm approachable to look after the kit. I mean, passionate about the job I do. That's the difference, isn't it? I'm not going to now use this as an opportunity to knock the competition. 503 shows ago, I decided that the industry needed a daily show. At the time that I decided that, I had no sponsors, I had no advertisers. I was making do with a mic that was laying about the place. I had no lighting. I had a fairly crappy camera, an even more crappy computer. But I decided that that was the way forward, and I went ahead and did it. I've forged that, and obviously things have improved. It looks better, it sounds better. The lighting and the signs and the new microphone and all that. It's because I love the industry. I love the industry second. I love the people in the industry most. They're my kind of folks, which is why I turn up here every day. And there are others that will turn up and claim to be the same as me, and they're not. And to give you an example, I mean, I could genuinely criticise a company here. I'm not going to, because frankly they're unimportant. But I was on a trip not so long ago with a manufacturer, and we had fairly limited time. We had about 3/4 of a day to get around, see the equipment, operate the equipment, take photographs, take film and everything else. And I was literally, and this is no word of a lie, I'm knocking on a bit, but I was literally running from one place to another. Got to get this, got to get that, get in the machine, operate, film, operate, run. There was another guy who does basically the same job as me, and I've actually got him on film. I had a time lapse going, and it was a time lapse of the factory with people walking around. And you know what time lapse looks like. There were people sort of running around like this and running around like this. This guy was in frame for about a minute because he just ambled across the foreground. It's like, you don't even want to be here, pal, do you? There we are. What Dan says, if you're looked after, you should do your bit too. Yeah, respect is a two-way street. Totally, 100%. And you earn that respect. I'm not going to get all philosophical about it. I respect those that respect me. And it's reflected in what I write, what I film, what I produce. Goes back to everything that I've said in recent months and weeks about the National Federation of Demolition Contractors. There are some within that organisation for whom I have the utmost respect, and there are others for whom I have zero. They've been stealing a living for years. I know who they are. They know who they are. Why would I treat them with any respect, and particularly given the fact that they have effectively waged a decade-long vendetta against me? Why would I treat them with any respect at all? On Steve Williamson, I carry my grease gun, but it's awkward for guys using public transport, in which I use. Carry the grease gun, and PPE is not easy. Do you know that's one of the I realise this is a real first world problem, but if I were going to a site in, let's say, Birmingham, right? Let's say Birmingham, because it's a couple of hours away. So the night before I was due to go to Birmingham, I've got a JCB boot bag with my boots in it. I've got my high-vis, maybe a jacket, maybe a vest, hard hat, gloves, glasses, the whole thing. All of that would go in the car. The following morning, I would add to that the camera gear and the drone and the tripods and all of that kind of thing, and we'd make our merry way. If I'm going into London, and London is about 15 miles away from me, I never drive. I go by train, underground, bus, whatever it might be. Oh, what a pain in the arse that is. You don't want to be getting on a train at the end of the road wearing a hard hat, so you've got to carry that. You look a bit of a Burke wearing high-vis on a train anyway. It looks like you're one of the railway workers, so I tend to stuff that in a bag. Do you go in normal shoes and then put your boots on when you get there, in which case you've got to take your boots in a bag? Do you go in your boots, which means you'll be wearing them all day and which are very uncomfortable? What do you do with that? Got to fly. See you tomorrow, says Plantworks with Rob Oliver. Yeah, thank you very much indeed for the reminder. Tomorrow on the show, we will be. We've got a guest. We've got Rob Oliver of Plantworks, basically. Fellow West Ham fan. I'm not going to talk about West Ham, although the last couple of results, maybe I should. But we're playing Liverpool tonight, so maybe not. But yes, Rob Oliver will be here tomorrow. So if you've got any questions about Plantworks, including where will it be in 2 years' time, please feel free to ask. You know you're old when you did a high-reach demolition machine before high-reach excavators were made. And just to drive that home, I went to see, I'm fairly sure it was the first Caterpillar high-reach, or the Caterpillar-based high-reach in the UK. Working over in Hertfordshire, and I'm going back a long while now. I'm going back 25 plus years. And we got the phone call from the dealer. I'm fairly sure the dealer at the time was still Leverton, so the south of England. And we got the phone call, would you like to go and see it? And yeah, what is it? And they said, oh, it's whatever it was, Cat 210 or something like that, and we put a high-reach boom on it. How high can it reach? 15 metres. 15 metres? 15 metres, that's enormous. I've never seen such a thing, never heard of such a thing. We're at 70 metres now and nobody bats an eyelid. But back in the day, as Gaz rightly says, 15 metres, a big deal. Mick Norton says, on a daily basis, droves of newly ticketed seat warmers leave their training providers, never having been shown a grease gun, let alone how to fill it or use it. How can that be right? I'm just trying to think. It's a different game, but imagine somebody coming into my line of work and, they've got plenty to say for themselves and everything else, but they don't know how to turn a camera on. Failed. Or, back in the day, I learned to type at school. Back in the day when I was a proper sort of print journalist, I've got away with words and everything else. I've passed my A level in English and stuff. I am going to be a journalist. How's your typing? I don't know. I've never typed. So how are you going to get by then? How are you going to make a living doing this if you can't do that? It makes no sense at all. And unfortunately, I realise he's done it partly in jest, partly tongue-in-cheek, but newly ticketed seat warmers. I wonder what the balance is. I wonder what the balance... If we said there were 1,000 new operators coming into the industry over a 3-month period, how many of that 1,000 are operators with a passion for the game, with a feel for the game, for a real enthusiasm, an eagerness to learn and to progress, and how many are seat warmers? What do you reckon? Half and half? Third and 2/3? We'll save that for another time, I think, because I've done it again. It's an hour and 10 minutes. No wonder Plantworks headed off out the door, because I've basically taken up most of their morning. Tomorrow we will be back here for more of the same. Plenty of this stuff, but we will have a guest. So just so you know, if you are planning to be late or if you're unavoidably detained, my plan will be we will get the video element of the show out the way, and I can tell you we've got an absolute belter of a film for tomorrow from the fine folks at Volvo. Also got some fantastic electric machines that I'm going to be seeing over in SaMoTer next week in Verona. But we'll get that all out of the way, and then rather than doing gripe of the day, we will have Rob Oliver, and he will be open to questions. I've got plenty myself, because Plantworks is is renewed. It is very much renewed. Obviously, it's been away for rather longer than was previously anticipated. Obviously, COVID pushed it back, and then Hillhead pushed it back even further. So it's, 4 years since the last plant works? But they are coming back literally all guns blazing with new features and new ideas, new areas, new exhibitors, and new everything else. So looking forward to Plantworks, looking forward to speaking to Rob Oliver about all of that tomorrow. So hopefully you can join us. We'll be here at 10 a.m. as we always are. I've already put a note in the diary, and you can see it on our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page, for a construction equipment news show on Friday. As it stands at the moment, there's nothing to go in it. I don't know whether to do the show and make it up as I go along, or sack the thing off and come back and regroup the week after next when I come back from Italy with lots and lots of new equipment. I'll keep you posted anyway. Till then, everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Thanks for all your input and your questions and your comments. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Till then, have a good one. All the best.